So thank you very much for having me. I'm from Safe Heron. We are institutional-grade self-custody solution designed to help our enterprise clients to enhance security and governance with regards to digital assets management. Right, so security is something that's really important in our industry because exploits and hacks are still really common in our space, right? Just less than a month ago, there's a Game 5 company called Munchables, that was exploited to the tune of almost $63 million, and it turned out to be an insider job, right? So security and preventing fraud is so critical. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so why is security, such a big issue in this space? We just need to look back in last year, 2023. Don't have to look really far back. We had about a total of about almost $1.7 billion worth of assets that was lost due to hacks, due to exploits, due to frauds, right? And if you look at the top 10 cases last year, 7 out of 10 was due to compromise of private keys, right? And why so? Because very often the way private keys are managed in institutions is that it's a single user, managing a single private key held on a single device, right? If any of these components are being exploited, then you might lose your assets. And in security, we also have this saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and very often the weakest link is actually the user themselves, right? And so user can lose assets because they may get socially engineered, they get phished, right? And losses can also happen due to human error and fraud. All right, so our approach towards security, right, starts with our vault management. We enable our clients to very securely store, transfer, interact with DeFi's, right, store tokens, right, through a variety of our platform that we make available to our users, right, namely through our mobile applications, our Web3 web console, our browser extension, as well as our API. Now, a very core part of our security design and our infrastructure is the use of our multi-layer security architecture, or what we call defense in depth and security. So if you look about it in a very layman terms, you can think about it like an onion. We have multiple layers. If one layer is being compromised, there's still other layers, right? So the whole idea is to increase the level of difficulties for the attackers and make it not so easy for assets to be exploited, right? So we use 3 core layers of security in our security setup, right? First is decentralized key shard management to tackle the single point of failure risk. Second would be we use Intel XGX, which is hardware isolated security enclave, to encrypt, right, and to secure sensitive data against tamper and maintain the integrity and confidentiality of the data. And the last and very key component of our defense in-depth strategy, it's also our policy engine, which I'll talk about more later. Okay, so diving right into it, right? So we use secure multi-party computation, or MPC. Right? Basically, it's a cryptography that we use to break up the private key, right, into key shards, or we call key shares. So you can imagine, like an example, we can break out the private key into 3 parts, distributed to 3 different parties to be stored on 3 different devices or servers at 3 different locations. So now if I'm an attacker, if I want to get hold to your private key, it's not going to be very difficult because I need to get hold of the private key shards across multiple different parties. And MPC is a cryptography that enables distributed signing without the individual key shards data being reviewed to any third party. And throughout the life cycle of the private key, it's never exposed or never visible in any devices. Right, and the next layer of the security is a trusted execution environment that's created by hardware isolation layer. We use Intel XGX. So Intel XGX helps us to encrypt all the sensitive data like the whitelisted addresses of key shards data, our API keys, our policy engines, and safeguarding them from external attacks or tamper. And it works in such a way that even if the server is being compromised, your data is still kept intact. All right, so the second layer, the policy engine, is what we use to govern security transactions. So we can create different approval workflows for different transactions, right? And we can set transactions or approval workflows in accordance to users or transaction-based rules. So for example, we can set up approval workflows up to 3 rounds of approval based on the basis of T out of N. T stands for total number of signers, to meet threshold, and N stands for total number of signers. And we could set transactions rules such as, a certain level of transactions cannot exceed a certain amount, or outflows cannot exceed, say, 100K within a 24 hours period. And to very proactively enforce security measures, we employ a very robust zero trust architecture combined with principles of least privilege. Right? So by zero trust, we go according to the mantra, don't trust, always verify. We authenticate every single actions on the basis that we don't trust by default. Right? And we do zero trust processes like remote attestations. What you see is what you sign. And we also set up robust privilege and role management to ensure that different members can only do certain set of activities, and every transactions will need to be approved. So things like who's going to hold the key shards, who can initiate transaction, who can approve transactions, who can approve new members. All of these actions will always have to be verified and authenticated. So this is to prevent fraud, and again to ensure that it's a system of check and balances. All right, so security is important, compliance is also very important, right? So we focus a lot on KYT, know your transactions, or AML, anti-money laundering monitoring. We need to know that sources are inflows and outflows do not involve dirty money or money associated with money laundering, as well as terrorist financing. And if any of the custody or the wallets our clients hold, it do comes into contact with sources from dubious sources, right? That it will be flagged, and that they can do a due diligence, and how to react to these dirty funds. Okay, so security is when we see what we notice in industry is that there's a lot of overemphasis on asset protection. Asset protection is very important, but so is threat detection and response, right? So what we do is that we will detect for unusual events, and because no system is 100%, right? So even the private key can be leaked, right? So we need to monitor, and then we have policies, right? Systems that can help to minimize prospects of losses. Okay, I need to speed up because there's not much time. People have also asked us, what will happen if our companies go out of business? Can we still recover their assets, right? So yes, we allow users to recover their private keys through our open source recovery tool, and it's a fully permissionless process. So these are very important things that users have to think about, not just about security, it's also about compliance, it's also about business continuity. Okay, lastly, while working with many different clients, we realize that there are different deployments options that clients will need with regards to, dependent on their risk management policies, their data privacy policies. So, we have versatile service deployment options that cover SaaS, or even hybrid or full on-prem, right? That will allow our clients to choose the solution that best fits their requirements. Okay, so we talk about security and risk management, we talk about threat and response, compliance, as well as business continuity, and as well as disaster recovery. So these are areas that companies would need to think about, when it comes to digital asset management. And when enforced properly, we have a good system in place, it will go a very long way towards helping to secure the digital assets. And hopefully, with security done well, then that will help to, increase adoption in the institutional space and industry at large. Thank you very much.